Hey guys, back today for another Love Dare. This is day 23. Love always protects. And that's what 1 Corinthians 13:7 says. Love always protects. No couple gets married as enemies. They tie the knot filled with hopes of a lifetime of love. But the high rate of divorce reveals that after a couple walks down the aisle, they're stepping into a minefield of marital obstacles that can take either of them down. Sadly, every marriage has enemies out there. That's why love compels us to be on the alert and guard what is most dear and precious to us, to be willing to step up and fight some battles passionately, those that pertain to protecting our spouse and the strength of our union. Many things could destroy our relationship unless our love puts on armor and picks up a sword to protect its own. Here, for example, are just a few of the potential attacks you need to be aware of and engaged in, constantly protecting your mate and your marriage. Responsibility, not passivity, is the key to guarding against the following issues. Misplaced priorities. Any good thing has the potential to become a harmful thing if it becomes an all-consuming thing. Friends, hobbies, and work schedules must be kept in balance and in their proper place. You can't protect your home when you're rarely there, nor when you're relationally disconnected. Even your children, while obviously a key priority, should be raised on the foundation of your strong marriage. When parents invert this and prioritize the kids above their marriage, they actually hurt their children in the long run as the marriage is weakened. One of the most commonly heard excuses for divorce is that it's best for the children. But what's best for the children is seeing their mom and dad demonstrate unconditional love for each other, keep their commitments, work out their differences, forgive and preserve a legacy of endurance. Let me stop there and say something. I had a pastor of mine from the past made this comment to me about when it comes to marriage and children, who's more important is what his point was. If you had to choose between your spouse or your kids, which one would you choose? And that's a, obviously unfair question, difficult question, but his point about that was that God hasn't made you one with your children, but he has made you one with your spouse. And I thought about that and I was like, well, I can't really argue with that. And so, the point is that obviously our responsibility is to protect our children. But if your relationship gets bad enough, you're going to choose your children over your spouse if you had to choose, because those differences between your spouse and you are so well placed. I mean, her strengths are your weaknesses and vice versa. And if you all hadn't come together on love to complement and cover one another, so your strengths are his, cover his weaknesses and vice versa, then they're going to be like a sword to you. No, it's going to be, there's going to be pain there because they're going to be poking the places you feel that you feel bad about. They're your weaknesses. And so but the truth is that the spouse is the one that you are one with, and so you've got to give the wife that relationship priority in trying to make it work. I realize it doesn't work all the time. It takes two to tango, but just to give that as a perspective there, I thought that's always something I think is important to do. Unhealthy relationships is another one. Not everyone has the material to be a good friend. Not every man you hunt and fish with speaks wisely when it comes to matters of marriage. Not every woman in your lunch group has a perfect perspective on commitment and priorities. In fact, anyone who undermines your marriage does not deserve the right to whisper in your ear. Harmful influences is another one. Are you allowing certain habits to poison your home? Technology, television, and the internet can be productive and enjoyable additions to your life, but they can also invite destructive content into your home and drain away precious, countless hours from your family. Be careful and cautious of anything that could deaden your mind or steal your time. Sexual temptation. Be on guard at all times from allowing opposite sex relationships at work, at the gym, even at church, to draw you emotionally away from the one to whom you've already given your heart. Many divorces are now resulting from unguarded use of social networking sites. Staring at smiling pictures of old friends and old flames can hook you emotionally and deceptively lure your heart away from the love of your life and into a danger zone. Any relationship that's drawing your affection away from your spouse has already gone too far. Wisdom says to be extra guarded around those you find most appealing and attractive. They should be kept at a greater emotional distance. Why? Your love is why. Shame. Everyone deals with some level of inferiority and weakness. And because marriage has a way of exposing it all to you and your mate, you need to protect your wife or husband's vulnerability by never speaking negatively about them in public. Their secrets are your secrets, unless, of course, these involve destructive behaviors that are putting you, your children, or themselves in grave danger. Generally speaking, love hides the faults of others. It covers their shame. Parasites. Watch out for parasites. A parasite is anything that latches onto you or your partner and sucks the life out of your marriage. They're usually in the form of addictions like gambling, drugs, or pornography. They promise pleasure but grow like a disease and consume more and more of your thoughts, time, and money. They steal away your loyalty and heart from those you love. Marriages rarely survive if parasites are present. If you love your spouse, you must destroy any addiction that has your heart. If you don't, it will destroy you. So, as a wife, realize you have a role as protector in your marriage. You must guard your heart from being led away through any novels, magazines, and other forms of entertainment that blur your perception of reality and put unfair expectations on your husband. Do your part in helping him feel strong while avoiding talk show thinking that lures your attention away from your family. The wise woman builds her house, but the foolish tears it down with her own hands. That's Proverbs 14:1. And husbands, you're the head of your home. You are the one responsible before God for guarding the gate and standing your ground against anything that would threaten your wife or marriage. This is no small assignment. It requires a heart of courage and a head for preemptive action. Jesus said, if the head of the house had known at what time of the night the thief was coming, he would have been on the alert and would not have allowed his house to be broken into. That's Matthew 24:43. This role is yours. Take it seriously. Today's dare is this: remove anything that is hindering your relationship, any addiction or influence that is stealing your affections and turning your heart away from your spouse. And here's another note about that. You can't change another person, even your spouse. The only person you're responsible for bringing into change is yourself. So it's easy for us to see our spouse's issues and problems, and it's best to not poke at them. You know, a healthy confrontation is something that is necessary, but you have to be very discerning as to when you're poking at somebody else and not looking at your own life. And so the number one thing you've got to do is to take yourself to the Lord and walk face to face with Him. Let Him show you the things in you that are lacking in His love. And then once you're filled with His love, you can pursue your spouse in love and act out that love. And that love is the most powerful thing there is. It is influential. Now, there aren't any guarantees, and it doesn't mean that what you're doing is going to equal what you'd like it to mean in terms of you getting the results that you'd like. But that's a trust issue. You lay that at the feet of Jesus, and you do everything you know to do between you and Him to operate in His love, face to face with Him, love with Him, and then love with others. And then one additional thing that has to do with the parasites, you know, the addictions. That addiction component really shows up in any of these other things that we do that mess us up, where, you know, you can addictively watch some show of entertainment that makes you feel good. You know, you can addictively do some hobby with another person that may be giving you bad information or influencing you wrongly. All addictions, the root of those addictions is a lack of love. That's at the bottom line. We know this especially in drug addiction or in pornography, things like that that are really potent that people are drawn to. It is, you're doing that because of a void of love. And it gets you into this cycle of behavior that just gets worse and worse and worse, because the more you entertain that addictive thing, the more shame you feel about it. And so shame, the difference between guilt and shame is this. Guilt is a red flag that goes up over an activity. You need to take a look at this. What's that guilt about? Is it a guilt that's trying to show you, hey, stop doing that, that's going to hurt you? Or is that a guilt that's been misplaced? Because there's a lot of things we feel guilty about that we don't need to be feeling guilty about. But shame is entirely different. Guilt says you've done something wrong. Shame says you are something wrong. Shame is identity-based. And addictive behaviors have a tendency to be hammering home in the shame department. And that shame, again, it's an identity. I am bad. Not I'm just doing something bad. I am something bad. Therefore, you're going to do your identity. That's the power of that and the problem with it. And with that shame-based identity, with that comes the message, do not tell anyone about this. Nobody. Do not. That's a strong message that comes with that shame. And therefore, you stay stuck in it because we obey. We don't tell anybody. We think if we tell anybody this, or if anybody finds out, we are done. And it's a lie. It's not the truth. You've got to open up. First with God, confess your sins to God. He cares. He died for you. He died for your past, present, and future sins. So He loves you, period. You come to Him first. You confess it. You receive His forgiveness, and then you confess your faults one to another. You've got to find someone trustworthy enough to begin to open up in that issue. Now, you may not be able to go to your spouse first. You may need to find somebody else you can go to. But you've got to find someone that will act in Christ towards you and get some light in there. Get some light on it, because ultimately you do need to share this with your spouse. And there's a lot of different levels of things, so I don't mean to throw this as in a general department. But if you want to have a whole heart and a healthy marriage, yes, you need to get to the point where you're walking face to face with your spouse and you're not holding things from them. And, there always are some exception to the rule in terms of, well, if I share that, that's going to hurt them. Yeah, there are some things that can be of a high level you need to be very careful with. But long story short, it's your ability to be open and vulnerable and not hide anything from your spouse that's going to mean top level, top tier wholeness of heart and health in relationship. And so you need to be walking that direction, and with wisdom and discernment. But those are the principles involved in healthy relationships. So great word today. Love always protects. So I hope you're walking in the right direction, praying your blessings over you guys. Hey, I appreciate the feedback some of you are getting. Shout out to you guys. I'm not real good with technology, so I do want to respond, but I am praying for you. And thanks for the encouragement. These things help me. I mean, I'm trying to live this stuff. That's why I'm really in it. And I'm praying that it just affects a lot of us, because we'll be living in a better world the more of us that are affected by true love and under operating in it. That's better for our world, and man, does our world need that today. So my prayers are for you and for myself, and that God would just come in and do a work in our planet, in our nation. We need it desperately. So bless you guys, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.